Barakata Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is a response, the Dark Ages Icons, Renaissance Art. Now I'm pretty much lambacking off of Elder Apostle video that he did. I believe this was yesterday. And pretty much he went into showing some icons from a particular book that he has, other books that he has, and showing you how Jake, so-called Negroes, the Southern Kingdom mostly ruled all throughout Europe prior to these Edomites getting back in there, because they ruled. Actually, you had Japhet, which were dark-skinned people. They ruled Europe, the Mediterranean and all of that, which today those original Japhites would be known as so-called Polynesian people. The people of, Hawaii and those areas over there, even though you do have Israelites among them. But though they make up, the Aborigines of Australia, so on and so forth. They make up the original Japhetic people of Europe, and they were brown-skinned people, from a light brown to a dark brown. They weren't so-called white people. That came later when Esau got up into Europe by way of Macedonia, Greece. That's why they said they have a term called civilization began with the Greeks. Why? Because the Edomites started to gain a foothold in Europe from that point, around 331 BC or so. So I watched this video yesterday. I wasn't, planning on doing a video on it. I just watched the video. The apostle, he brought out, a lot of good pictures, a lot of good info. And last night, I believe, the beloved brother Barak Allah, the second in command out of the Cali camp, sent me this article, Religious Frescoes, which prompted me to do a response to Elder Apostar's video. So I want to go into that. But before we get into that, I was watching a couple of videos last night based off of another video Elder Apostle Tahar did yesterday, dealing with the Dark Ages, the medieval times, going into Revelation, the 20th chapter. And it prompted me to just type in on YouTube about the doctrine of discovery, or something. I forget the exact words that I used, to find these particular videos. That I'm just gonna show you a little clip of this one video. Matter of fact, the video is here. It's called Tordesillas, How the Pope Divided the World Between Spain and Portugal. That's what it was. It was history. I typed in history of the papal bull. All right, and this is pretty much what came up. I believe that's what I typed, history of the papal bull. And this came up, based off of the doctrine of discovery, which was the teeth, for lack of better words, that was given by the Pope, beginning with Rodrigo Borgia, better known as Pope Alexander VI back then. And he gave the decree in 1493 that all lands, to the west in the so-called New World belonged to, I believe it was just Spain, or it could have been Spain and Portugal, and this is what prompted that big migration of these devils coming over here, and exploiting our brothers in our lands too, So I'm just gonna play a little clip of this. I don't own the rights to this video. I hope they don't hit me with a copyright or, clip this video for it. I'm just going to play a little short segment of it. Hopefully they won't clip it. This is just fair use notice. This is for educational purposes. I'm not making any money off of this. I'm just, sharing some information that we've been speaking about for the longest. So I'm just going to play a little part of it. Hopefully they won't clip it. So here we go.
It is the year 1453.
Oh, let me bring it back. Let me turn it up a little bit more. Just bear with me 1 second. All right.
It is the year 1453, the year which many scholars dub as the end of the Middle Ages. Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire for over 1,000 years, has finally fallen to the Ottoman Empire.
I don't want to play anymore because, like I said, I'm not sure if they're going to give me a strike on it. So pretty much you heard it. He said 1453, the scholars deemed that the end of pretty much of the medieval times. And lo and behold, the Ottoman Empire, which were Edomites that embraced the religion of Islam, they took over the eastern part of the Roman Empire, which was run by Jake in the land of Turkey, which was known as Constantinople. And after they took it over, the name was changed to Istanbul, Turkey. And that began to end the final fall of Jake as a whole. I believe that same year. No, that was later on. So when they took over, what started to happen was these Edomites that were taking over the European countries where Jake was ruling, they started a campaign called Iconoclasm. And iconoclasm is a compound word which means the defacing of images, because the word icon means image and clasm means defacing or destruction. And they started to go around the world, the known world, and all of the different places that our forefathers were ruling, and taking the art and destroying the art by throwing white paint on it, by breaking the noses off of them, by whitewashing, scratching and scraping the faces, to make them unrecognizable, just leaving enough to see the figure but without the faces, and there was so much art because our people ruled for 1,000 years that they weren't able to destroy all of it. But the major ports where they took over, they were able to get a good portion of them, and then you had what was known as the Renaissance period. And in the Renaissance period, they started to paint the new images of the other Jesus, which is Caesar Borgia / Serapis Christus, and they went around defacing those images, to what you see today. But there are so many that they weren't able to destroy all of them. So I want to start reading here just to give you an example of that. This is called religious frescoes. I put this video, and this in the description box. So those of you brothers that want to look into it further can have it. This says Panagia Mavriotitsa Monastery, northern Greece. Now this is in northern Greece, keep in mind, okay? Was built in the Macedonian style with twin churches. The main church of the Virgin Panagia dates from circa 1000 AD. This Jake was still in power at this time. Esau was still in subjection to Jake. They were scheming to try to get out, but they still had a ways to go. Its exterior south wall is decorated with 13th century frescoes, which are paintings, in particular the tree of Jesse. Who is Jesse? The father of King David, ancestor of Yahushai. So the tree of Jesse means what? The genealogy of Jesse. Because remember in Isaiah the 11th chapter, it speaks about a rod coming out of the stem of Jesse. And that rod would eventually be Yahushai. And this is his genealogy, because his genealogy goes directly to King David. It says the tree of Jesse is a depiction in art of the ancestors of Hamashiach. Shows in a tree which rises from Jesse of Bethlehem, the father of King David, the original use of the family tree as a schematic representation of what? A genealogy. And what does the word genealogy mean? Gene is pretty much the sperm or the lineage of Yahushua. And it's the lineage of anyone. That's why in a genealogy you have what? Men. Because men carry the seed, the sperm, the seed that gives life. The woman, which is the incubator, they have the egg that feeds and nourishes and helps to grow that seed. That's why a lot of so-called 5%ers back in the day used to call their woman Earth. Going back to Eve, the mother of all living. Because in a woman's womb is just like the earth. And the earth takes in seed and nourishes that seed until that seed grows and gives forth fruit. All right. And it's the same thing with children. It says, or seeds. It originates in a passage in the biblical book of Isaiah, which describes metaphorically the descent of the Messiah. It doesn't say it metaphorically. It speaks clear. A rod out of the stem of Jesse. That's not metaphoric. That's straight up, letting you know that the Lord came out of the lineage of Jesse, King David, King Solomon, so on and so forth. And is accepted by Christians as referring to Yahushua, and it is referring to Yahushua, whether they accept it or not. The subject is often seen in Christian art, particularly in that of the medieval period, right? Because the medieval period was when Jake was in rulership. You had the fall of the pagan Roman Empire and the rise of Jake, keeping the same customs of the pagan Romans until 325, which a pagan by the name of Constantine, which was a so-called black man. You have pictures and frescoes and art depicting that. Elder Bishop Tazadakba is the expert on that. He has a lot of information and books dealing with that. So if he happens to see this video and the spirit hits him to do a lesson on it, hey, that'll be beautiful. All right, so this medieval period when Constantine, who was a pagan, got in that position. His mother, I believe her name was Helen, if I'm not mistaken. Could have been a different name. I'm not sure her exact name. She was into Christianity, and she convinced him to make Christianity the official religion of Rome, of the Roman Empire at that time. So at this point it became known as a Holy Roman Empire. But what Constantine did was he mixed pagan worship with Christian worship to be able to gather all types of followers, both from the Christian religion and from the pagan religions. All right, because he was a sun worshiper. It says the earliest example dates from the 11th century. The Last Judgment with the long-toothed damned is depicted in the narthex. There are 12th century frescoes on some of the walls. The chapel of John the Evangelist was added in the 16th century, and it would be interesting to see this, John the Evangelist in the 16th century, to see what they painted him as, because by this point, this is when Esau started getting up in there. So as we look through here, you see the genealogy of the Lord. You see pictures here. You can see this picture better. Some of these pictures are not as clear, but this one is clear. You can see that this has an afro. It says Panagia Mavriotitsa Monastery, Northern Greece, circa 1000 AD, the tree of Jesse. And then you have there what? Yahushua. They got Jesus there. And you have a close-up of the same picture of Yahushua with a crown on his head. And you could clearly see that that's a fro. You could clearly see he's a so-called black man. Clad, like as the scriptures say in the book of Isaiah, that he would be, clad in righteousness, or girded up in righteousness. This looks like a sword right here. All right. And then it says here, Panagia Mavriotitsa Monastery, Northern Greece, circa 1000 AD. The tree of Jesse, Yahushai, close up. All right. And you can see that. And a lot of these devils, they fight against the scriptures because the scriptures finally reveal them for who they really are. The Lord said that the Lord would cause, matter of fact, let me get this real quick, and then Isaiah 25:7, it says, and he, meaning the Most High, will destroy or destruction or pull the veil back in this mountain, America, because remember, when you start to examine the gospel that's being taught around the world, you know, that is waking up the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. That came from where? It came from America, in particular from Harlem, New York. So the Lord used America, in particular Harlem, New York, and the men that were there, the prophets that were there, to expose and peel back the veil and destroy the lies here in this country. The stronghold of the Renaissance Christianity that had hold of the whole world, that was predicated upon, you know, white supremacy, you know, the doctrine of discovery, manifest destiny, so on and so forth. So this is the place where the destruction of all of that came to pass, the revealing of who the devil is, the revealing of the truth of who the Israelites are, started here in America, in particular Harlem, New York. So the Lord destroyed in this mountain the face of the covering, because they have the face of the covering is what? The lies that have been depicted around the world, you know, of who the Most High is, who the Messiah is, you know, who the Israelites are, so on and so forth. And this is why in Job 9:24, which is a basic, fundamental building block scripture, it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. The people that are ruling are the wicked, which are so-called white people that are ruling. They are the Edomites, because the Edomites are identified, in the scriptures as the wicked. So the earth was given into their possession, and what did they do? He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So if you cover something, that means that you're hiding something. Because when we look up the word covereth, the word there is kasah. Kasah. It says to cover, conceal, hide. So they were hiding something. So what are they hiding? They are hiding the true depictions of who the Most High, his son, the Israelites are, so on and so forth. It says he covered the faces of the judges thereof. Who are the top judges? You got the Most High. You have Yahushai. You have the angels. You have the Israelites, so on and so forth. It says, if not, where and who is he? So if the so-called white man didn't do this, if they didn't conceal, cover up the faces of the judges, who did it? Whose face do we see today around the world being depicted as a heavenly father, being depicted as the one the world calls Jesus, which his name in the Hebrew is Yahushai. The Most High's name is Yahweh. His son's name is Yahushai. Who do we see depicted in the world? Do we have to get it? Look, all I'm going to do is type in Jesus. It could be Jesus, you know, De Jesus. It could be, you know, Jesus Santiago. It could be Jesus Hoxkowicz, you know. But I'm just typing in the so-called name Jesus, which that's not even a word. And what do you have? Pictures of the Renaissance white supremacist so-called Jesus, the so-called Messiah, the anti-Messiah. See? Then if you type in God, or I could just hit it here, God. What do you have? Pictures of so-called white. Matter of fact, let me go back, because they're saying that's supposed to be Yahushua is the Most High, which he's not. God, boom. You have pictures of white supremacists, Renaissance art depictions of who God is supposed to be. So they did this. I didn't type in the white man God. I didn't type in the white man Jesus. I just typed in so-called Jesus and so-called God into the search engine on images, and this is what came up. See? So they did this. Who did this? You so-called white people did this. So when we go back to Isaiah, and he, the Most High, will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. So the Lord is the one that's systematically chopping down the tree of lies of Esau. Damn, that's a lesson right there. Chopping down the tree of lies of Esau. Wow. All right, let's go real quick. Before we go, I was going to go to Revelation first, but let's do this in order. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. The Ancient of Days. Who was the Ancient of Days? The Most High. And he's not, the Ancient of Days reigns. So like I read that wrong. I dyslexically read it. I thought it said resigns. But it says the Ancient of Days reigns, because the Most High is always going to be in the power seat. But Yahushua, he's given all rule of everything under him to Yahushua. He's the only thing that's excluded from Yahushua ruling over, which shows you that they're two separate entities. So it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. What thrones? The thrones of the empires of the heathen. And when we read up above this, it gives us a description of the four major empires that will rule on the planet prior to our Lord coming back. And we know that the fourth empire is the Roman Empire, and we get this from studying, but we also get it from these scholars. These scholars break it down the right way, who the four beasts are. So it says that after the fourth beast, the kingdom of heaven would be established upon the earth. And we know that the Roman Empire fell, but we know that the Roman Empire was also going to come back into power, in these times, which goes back to the Renaissance period. You see, and this is a lot of history to know in order to get the proper and true understanding of the scriptures. So it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Who is the Ancient of Days? The Most High himself, Yahweh. He is, he to be, he exists. Whose garment was white as snow, because he had a white garment on. And keep in mind, this is Daniel seeing this vision of the Most High sitting upon a throne with chariots and everything around him. And the hair of his head like the pure wool. So he described the Most High's hair like the pure wool. When you look up pure wool, let's see what happens when we type in pure wool. Pure wool. Boom. That's shaggy. That's coarse. When a so-called black person their hair turns white, this is what it looks like. Must we get it? Let's see, how could we word this? Let's see. Let's see. We type in black people with gray hair. Images. Boom. Look at this. I mean, this is a woman, but look at her hair. You know what? Let's do this. Let's read the judgment. White. I mean, I hate to use these terms, but this is what the algaes are going to give us. White people with gray hair. Boom. And notice I put white people, I put so-called black people, so-called white people, and it's giving nothing but images of women. Show you how this boy, let's get this witch right here. Let's get this witch. Let me see something. Look at this witch. Let's see something. Now, let's do a comparison, right? This is, I mean, I wanted to get men, but of course, you know, you can't do that. This witch got gray hair, all right? She got gray hair. Edomite gray hair, Jake gray hair, right? Now, when we go to pure wool, what is closer to this pure wool? This or this? I'll let you decide. This or this? Matter of fact, let me see if I can find another. Let's go to, we got here images. Here we go. Morgan Freeman. Finally. Morgan Freeman, right? Now, Morgan Freeman, let me see if I can find another. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. Let me come here. Let me see if I can find a devil with gray hair. Edomite man. Here we go. Matter of fact, you know what? Well, no. Let me just. Now. Let's see where we at. Where we at? All right. Now, we got the pure wool. We got this, which appears to be Edomite here with gray hair. And we have, where we at? We have Morgan Freeman with gray hair. Let me see where we at. Yeah, we got Morgan Freeman here with gray hair. Which texture of hair? They're both gray. Which texture of hair best matches pure wool? You got one, you got two. I would say number two. But anybody else that's blind would say number one. So, when we go to Daniel 7, it describes the Heavenly Father's hair on his head like the pure wool. And it has nothing to do with white because it didn't say white. This is the same thing that is said in the book of Revelation, the 1st chapter and the 14th verse. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Here it sounds like it's saying that his head, meaning his head, his face was so-called white, but it's not. When you go to the other translations, right, like the NIV, the hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like a blazing fire because it was completely gray. The Most High here says, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. It doesn't say his head and his hairs. It says the hair on his head like the pure wool. This is the same thing that's said here. It's just written a little funny when you go to the KJV. But in the NIV, it's written correctly. Even in the ESV, the hairs of his head were white. Like white wool. All right? And here it says, was white like wool. And wool, like you heard Elder Pastor go into it, the wool is not only white. You have black wool, you have, different color wool. You have some sheep that are brown, some sheep that have white and black in them. So you have different colors of wool, not just white. All right? White just represents purity, and that's why I use the word white. Here in Daniel 7 and 9, it didn't use the word white. It just said, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. This is a representation of the chariots. So when we see this image of Yahushua, obviously when he was younger, he has what? Woolly hair. And that picture of that woman that we saw, it said that her hair was kinky. All right? So this is Yahushua. Panagia Mavriotisa Monastery, northern Greece, circa 1000 AD, the tree of Jesse, Yahushua close up, right there, boom. Then you have other images here. This is also from the same monastery, This is Narthex, northern Greece, circa 1200 AD. This was 100 years later, the Last Judgment. And you have here depictions of icons, which you can see a lot of these are scratched. The faces are scratched off. All right, a lot of these faces are scratched off. Here you got, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be an image of the Most High. You can see he has kinky hair, or it could be one of the prophets. You know, some of these you know look a little lighter. That's 1200 AD. Then you have here the Last Judgment close up, and you see this is a Jake with gray hair, you know, in a tomb. Same thing here. Boom. You have the angels here. These could be angels or they could be saints. I'm not sure. The Last Judgment close up. Here you got more depictions. You can see more afros here. This one looks a little lighter. You can see this one is a lot darker. You can see the kinky hair, the afro, but you can see that they try to whitewash this one and this one. It says the Warrior Saints. This is 1200 AD. All right. It says the Sumela Monastery, Turkey. Now we're moving into Turkey because Turkey was a stronghold for the eastern part of the Roman Empire. All right. And this is where Constantine and his descendants were ruling. That's why it was called Constantinople before it was changed to Istanbul, Turkey. And we read here that 1453 was dubbed by the scholars as the end of the medieval times, and the heart of the Renaissance period, because it started like in the 1300s, but it had to, you know, it was a slow, you know, because you had too many strongholds, so they had to slowly but surely conquer. Just like they didn't conquer America in one day or the Americas in one day. It took a period of time. It says founded in the year 386 AD. This is when Jake was hot and heavy in there. During the reign of the Emperor Theodosius the First, 375 to 395. It reached its present form in the 13th century after gaining prominence during the reign of Alexios III, 1349 to 1390. Of the Komnenian Empire of Trebizond, established in 1204. And you can see here, I'm not sure if you can see this too good, but you can see these all have woolly hair. You know, they're a lighter brown. You can see they're actually brown. Here you got more Jakes. This one, they kind of scratched the face off. This is like a Jake in a coffin. It says the Sumela Monastery, Turkey, circa 1300 AD. Yeah. This is what the Turks took over. Now here you got the writings. Jacob, which is Jacob. Ayansik. But if you notice, a lot of these pictures here are what? Scratched off. The faces are scratched off. See, they're all scratched off. You could see this a little bit. This is a Jake. These are all Jakes, but they're all scratched up. And guess what? Look, do you know what? The Ottoman Turks were the original spit, you know, from the movie Beat Street. Whenever, you know, Ramon would paint a nice tag on the trains, you would always have spit all over, you know, the different trains. So spit might have been an Edomite, you know, in the movie Beat Street. He was one of the original Iconoclast individuals. So it says the Sumela Monastery, Turkey, what whites sometimes do when they find a black face and there is no nose to break off. See? And this is the true meaning of iconoclasm. And you can see that they scratched all the faces off. They pretty much desecrated this picture. You know? They wrote all over it, all kind of stuff on it. You know? And that's it on this. So, let's go from there. Let's go to, what do we got here? Okay, let's go from there. Let's go to Songs of Solomon, chapter 1. And just bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to find this. I forgot to pull this up. Just bear with me. Okay, let's see. Spare me 1 second. Alrighty then. Salaka. Let me try something else. All right, cool. So I got that. So let's go here. Songs of Solomon, right? And we're going to go to the point. Songs of Solomon 1 and 5 says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. And this is King Solomon writing this. Remember, this is poetic. He's writing this in a poetic form. So sometimes you refer to yourself, in the third person. So all of this, the majority of the Songs of Solomon were pretty much allegories to the Most High, to wisdom, knowledge, understanding, the fervent love and desire that King Solomon had to the knowledge of Yahweh. All right. So when we read here, he says, I am black but comely, because some people try to say this is the Shunammite woman or the Shulamite woman. But when we read the first verse, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. So King Solomon wrote this, just like he wrote Ecclesiastes. He said, let's go to Ecclesiastes 1 and 1. Let me see what it says there. Ecclesiastes 1 and 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. So he wrote this, right? And he also wrote Songs of Solomon, the Songs of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let me check something else real quick. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 1, see what comes up. Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Okay, he doesn't really go too tough into it. I'm pretty sure somewhere in here it may mention it, but it's neither here nor there. So these are King Solomon's songs. All right. And he's saying, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon, meaning the rest of King Solomon's descendants and peoples. So when we look up the word black here, these devils are very naughty. Shakar, right, which means black. It just says black. It says here properly dusky, but also absolutely jetty black. When we go down here, the Jacinius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says black used of hair, which could be that, a horse. You could have a black horse or a black sheep. Blackish color of the face, meaning that dark brown color of the face, because King Solomon who was a Hebrew, an Israelite, he was a dark-skinned man. In contrast to his father, wasn't as dark as the other Israelites. That's why it says here ruddy, a word used to refer to a red or fair complexion, right? Because it could be red for Esau, but we're really not really, because when we read the word in Genesis 25, when spoke about the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, it didn't use the word ruddy because the word ruddy does not mean red. But the Hebrew word that was used there, to describe it, Adamawanya, or they say Admoni, could be either someone that's actually red like Esau, or somebody that has brown skin or with red overtones. Like you have light-skinned Jakes, or even the so-called black woman at one time was called Redbone. She's not actually red like Esau, but she's lighter. So it says ruddy, a word used to refer to a red or fair complexion, in contrast to the dark skin of the Hebrews. You see? And it gives you King David. This is 1 Samuel. That's speaking about King David. And it also gives you what? Songs of Solomon 5 and 10 as a what? Skin color. Dark skin of the Hebrews. Songs of Solomon 5 and 10, which these devils try to fight against that and try to say that that's not talking about skin color. And here it is, your own scholars in the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary, which was written by so-called white people, they're letting you know that Songs of Solomon, the 5th chapter in the 10th verse, is speaking about skin color. And when we read that, it says, my beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 1,000. His head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven. But this doesn't have the word black. It has the word ruddy, which the word ruddy is the brown skin. Because when you take this word ruddy, let's copy that. Matter of fact, let's just search. And let's go to images. And let's look up. This is really ruddy right here. This is not ruddy. This is red. Now, when you type in ruddy animals, which we've done before, you get what? Brown images of different birds, that do not look like so-called white people. It's brown with a red overtone. Almost, some of them look almost orange. Just like here, where is it? Ruddy people. Let's see what happens when we put in ruddy people. This is ruddy. Boom, right here. This individual, ruddy skin tones. Red Fox, that's why they call him Red Fox. You had Detroit. He was, I believe he was Detroit Red. And Malcolm was also known as Red. But I forgot what. One of them was Detroit Red. The other one was something else red. Here you have an individual that has ruddy skin. He's brown and he has red. He actually has red hair. They say this is Esau. That's some bullshit. Now this individual has a ruddy skin tone with blonde hair. Could be a Japhite, could be a Jake. So that's ruddy. That's the ruddy people. This is not ruddy. This is red. This is a different conjure. This is not ruddy. This is red. All right? Because they gave you the truth in the beginning, and then they had to mix in, the lies right here. This is the lie. This is the lie. All right? So going back to Songs of Solomon, he said, when he said I'm black, it says here what? The blackish color or brownish, dark brown color of the face. And it gives you Canticles, which is Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. Then it gives you the root word, another root word, same word, shakar, to be black of skin, meaning brown skin. All right? And we have to use the word black because, nobody understands anything else but black. Black, brown, and white. And then you have to explain to them that there's no such thing as black people because all people are brown skin. They're either brown skin or red skin. And the so-called North American Indians are not red skin. All right? Now, when we go, matter of fact, let's go back because it says as the tents of Kedar, meaning the people of Kedar. Now you had Ishmael, which Kedar was the son of Ishmael. Ishmael had 12 sons, and his son Kedar was the darkest one. That's why he called him Kedar. And the word Kedar goes back to the Hebrew word Quadar, which means dark. When you come down to the Jacinius, black skin or dark skin, black skinned man or dark skinned man. All right. So letting you know that King Solomon was a very dark skinned man. You know, in contrast to his father David was a little lighter, because his grandmother was who? Ruth, the Moabite. All right. So let's see what else we got. And when you deal with this word Kedar, this is the same word, or Quadar, this is the same word that's used in Jeremiah 14:2, but they try to say that the one in Jeremiah 14:2 is speaking about being sad, and it's not talking about being sad, because it could be used for mourning, but it's being used as, we just read that Quadar were dark-skinned people, and King Solomon was compared to that. So right here is speaking about the Jews in Jerusalem. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up, because they're brown skinned, just like Adam was brown skinned. Deep, dark, rich soil, because the word Adam or Adama means ground. All right. And when we look up here, they are black. It has the word Quadar, but in this case it's saying to mourn. But we know that it's talking about darken, or to be so-called black. And then when you look it up, it says this is a primitive root. So sometimes the word Quadar could be used for mourning. See right here, it says be black or blackish, or really dark brownish. All right, or dark brown. Right, to be of a dirty, blackish color, as of a sunburnt skin. And there's no so-called white people that get sunburnt skin that it turns black. Because a so-called brown-skinned person that goes into the sun, they become darker. These devils are always trying to play around when it comes to color scriptures. All right. So it depends on the context. This context is talking about skin color. Jeremiah 14:2, Songs of Solomon. Then you have Job 30:30. Matter of fact, let me go back here. Job 30:30, where it speaks about Job, who was an Israelite, not no goddamn Edomite. My skin is what? Black. My skin. Let's see what the word. Maybe the word skin just don't mean skin. The word there for skin is iwar. Skin, hide, skin of men. So you can understand. It goes back to iwar, naked. Right, the naked skin. Skin is what? Black upon me. We look up the word black. You have the word shakar, which is the same word that was used in Songs of Solomon 1 to denote skin color. But here, they're trying to use it as through the idea of duskiness of early dawn. But here it says what? To be black of skin, or brown, or dark brown of skin. Let's see what it says here. Right, my skin is black. And draws away from off. You know, that's not what it says, dickheads. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat. Because he had a fever, you know, he had boils, he was catching hell. He didn't even want to eat. And when you don't eat, your body can't get the nutrition that it needs to help fight off whatever you got going on. So my skin is black upon me, or dark brown upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat. All right, because of the fever. You know, and sometimes you have such a high fever that it feels like your body's on fire. but that's the body fighting off some type of infection. All right. Now let's go from there. Let's go to Acts 13. These devils like kryptonite, like vocab talking about kryptonite for the Israelites. This is kryptonite for you devils. Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called what? Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Niger. Let's look up the word Niger. Or nigger, whichever one you prefer, because that's pretty much where it goes back to. Niger or Niger, Latin origin, black. You know? Let's see what it says. They don't have a Jacinius. Of course, now you notice that when it comes to everything else, they have like a whole dissertation of breakdowns of what it means. Here is just, a Christian. Niger, black. Here, strong, it just a little clip. There's no Jacinius Chaldee lexicon. Then something interesting that I just saw, which I read somewhere else about a different individual. The man that helped Yahushua carry the cross, which was Simon of Cyrene. He was also a so-called black man, dark brown skinned man, because Cyrene is in northern Africa. So we look up the word Lucius of Cyrene, right? Lucius, which means light, or Luke. You have the word Kureneos, a native of Cyrene. These devils, boy. Right, this is Simon the Cyrenian. Then you had in Acts, some of the Jews that came to Jerusalem came from Cyrene. Salakia. Well, it didn't say Cyrene. I thought it did. My bad. I stand corrected. I thought they had Cyrenians in Acts the 2nd chapter, but it didn't. Let me see what was in Acts the 2nd chapter. Oops. All right, no biggie. Let's see. Yeah, I was right. Acts 2:10. It says Phrygia and Pamphylia in Egypt and in parts of Libya. These are all places in Africa, Egypt, parts of Libya, about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes. And I didn't think I was bugging. Cyrene, which is not going to really give you. Okay, wait a minute. Cyrene, supremacy of the bridle, a large and very flourishing city in Libya. See, Cyrenaica, or Pentapolitana, about 11 miles, 7 kilometers from the sea. Among its inhabitants were a great number of Jews, whom Ptolemy I had brought there and invested with the right of citizens. Yeah. And that's where you had a large community of Israelites in Cyrene. You had a large community of Israelites in Alexandria. You had, I believe that was Pompey that brought them there in captivity, or he freed them. The libertines. You had the libertines, which were freed Jews, freed Israelites. All right, so there's a lot of history, man. Let's see, there was something I read in here. You know what? Let's go. Let's try this. Let's go here. See if we could find a map to give you like a visual of where this is located. So you have Egypt here, Cyrenaica. All right, you have other places here. Niger down here. I believe this is Libya, if I'm not mistaken. and you had a large community there. Let me see. Type in Jews in Africa. Map. Let's go to map. It's not really giving you much. Let me see what's this right here. I hate when they do that, giving them little ass fucking maps. They're not gonna really give you too much. Let me see. Jews of Alexandria and Cyrene map. Nah, they're not gonna give you much. That's why you have to pretty much go to the scriptures on it, which when we go to Acts the 6th chapter, these were the people that were, these were the Jakes that were fighting against Stephen. Acts 6 and 8. And Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. Then there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the Libertines, right? These were the ones that were liberated, right? Libertines, because libertines or libertinos, one who has been liberated from slavery, a freedman, or the son of the freedman. Libertine denotes Jews, according to Philo, who had been made captives of the Romans under Pompey, right? But were afterwards set free, and who, although they had fixed their abode in Rome, had built at their own expense a synagogue at Jerusalem, which they frequented when in that city. The name Libertines adhered to them to distinguish them from free-born Jews, who had subsequently taken up their residence at Rome. That's why you had a lot of Israelites in Rome. That's why it says strangers in Rome, because they weren't actually Romans, they were strangers there. Evidence seems to have been discovered of the existence of a synagogue of the Libertines at Pompeii, which Pompeii was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius back, I believe that was 69 AD, was it? Let me see. When was Pompeii destroyed? 79 AD, yep. The famous eruption took place in the year 79 AD when it buried the city of Pompeii under a thick carpet of volcanic ash. The dust poured across the land like a flood, one witness wrote, and shrouded the city in a darkness. And that's pretty much what's going to happen to America, but by way of thermonuclear destruction and the missiles. I mean, and the lasers from the chariots. All right. So we got that. And a lot of people in Pompeii, they died of asphyxiation because the smoke was so thick that they died of asphyxiation because they couldn't breathe. You know, you had a lot of foul shit going on in that place, in that area. You know, you had, you know, they had, you know, it's just freakism going on there, all kind of freakism. So now we looked up the word Libertines. We look up the word Cyrenians. Kurenaios, a native of Cyrene. They don't really say too much. We showed you where Cyrene was located in northern Africa. And you have also the Alexandrians. And when we look up the Alexandrians, right, a native or resident of Alexandria in Egypt, right, which were Jews that were in Alexandria, living there. That was their home. And they would come, 3 times in a year to Jerusalem to keep the Passover, the Feast of Tabernacles, and Pentecost. All right, let's go back. And they of Cilicia, these were all Israelites. Cilicia, Cilicia, land of Cilix, a maritime province in the southeast of Asia Minor, bordering on Pamphylia in the west, Lycaonia and Cappadocia in the north, and Syria in the east. Its capital, Tarshish, was the birthplace of Paul, which his name was Saul at first. So these were all Israelites that were living in these regions. Let's see, Cilicia and of Asia, and these are Israelites that were living there. And they were disputing with Stephen. Asia Orient, Asia proper or proconsular Asia, embracing Mysia, Lydia, Phrygia, and Caria, corresponding closely to Turkey today. You had a lot of Israelites in Turkey. That's why the first place that was taken down by the Ottoman Turks were Edomites that embraced the religion of Islam. When they conquered that, they destroyed and defaced those images there. They took the church and named it Hagia Sophia. I believe that's what they named it, Hagia Sophia. They changed the name from Constantinople to Istanbul, Turkey. That's why they're also known as Turks. Then when we go back here and we jump up to the first verse, these are the same people that were arguing. The widows were arguing with the homeborn Jews. They were Jews that were not born in the land, so they didn't have the same, even though they were supposed to have the same rights, they didn't have the same inherited rights as the Jews born there, and they were being discriminated against. It says, and in those days when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews. That's why the Apostle Paul said there is no difference between the Hebrew and the Greeks, between the Jew and the Greeks. Why? Because they're both Israelites. The only thing that distinguishes them is what? The language barrier. And in some cases, some of them were following the customs of the other nations and their idols because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. When we look up this word Grecians here, the word is Hellenistes, which is different from Helen. All right? Hellenistes, a Hellenist, which you had Israelites that were speaking the language of these different nations, or especially dealing with the Greeks, but they were still following the customs of Israel because they were Israelites. But their language was different because of the land where they were born in. But they were still raised up as being Israelites, as being Jews. They were circumcised. The men were circumcised the 8th day. They were keeping the Passover. They were keeping the high holy days. They were keeping the law, statutes, commandments. And this is why they were in Jerusalem keeping those feast days. It says, one who imitates the manner and customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. No, it's really those that use the Greek tongue. Because these Hellenistas or Hellenistes are Greek-speaking Jews. It says used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. And that's all it was. They were just speaking Greek. Now, in the case of the Hellen, or Helene, or however you say it, those were Israelites that were following the customs, the manners, the worship of the Greeks. That's how they became what? Uncircumcised. That's how they became known as Greeks, or being called uncircumcised by the circumcision, because there was no need for the Jews to call the other heathens uncircumcised, because that was a known fact back then. The reason why they used the term uncircumcised, because that was a term of like a embarrassing or a talking down to, for lack of better words. It was not a flattering title, put it to you like that. All right. So now that that's that, let's go back to Songs of Solomon. Let me see where we at. You know what? We could end it there because I was gonna make another point, but the point is already made, and plus it's over an hour already. I didn't even realize it was over an hour already. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Yes, I said few sisters. And to the next time I say shalom.